Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 6 of Beer Reviews. Today we're going to be continuing on with some of the American beers that I got when I was back in the States a couple of weeks ago. We're going to be having this big puppy right here, which is actually kind of punny because there's actually a dog on the bottle cap. I'm actually just going to open this thing up and get started because this is a 22 ounce Lagunitas IPA, and then we'll talk about the beer and get into the history and stuff like that. Lagunitas Brewing Company, located in Petaluma, California, was founded in 1993 or 94. Whatever, man. We're in California. Who cares about details, man? With the core of the brewery coming from Chicago and Memphis and St. Louis and Boston, they somehow only know how to brew one type of beer: ales. Of about 30 beers that Lagunitas brews, a total of 4 of those beers are not ales. They're doing something right, though. Lagunitas is one of the fastest growing breweries in the United States. But all that growth comes at a cost, and in typical Californian fashion, Lagunitas sold out to Heineken last year, who bought up 50% ownership rights, and Lagunitas lost their craft brewery designation from the Brewers Association. Back to the doghouse you go now. So, these guys are all about ales and all about growing, and it appears that they've put their bottles on hormones as well. Let's just get the elephant out of the room. I've actually never seen these bottles this big, these 22 ounce bombers is what they're called, but when I was in the US, most of the beers that I picked up were these bomber style size. All right, so yeah, let's try this baby. It's a very nice golden color. It says it's a pale ale. But in terms of pale ales go, that's actually quite golden in color. Usually they're a little bit lighter. Got a lot of bubbles rising up to the top, and there's quite a nice head on this guy, being that it's an ale. Usually ales aren't as bubbly as lagers are, but let's see what we got. Yep, very bitter, that's for sure. But IPAs are bitter. We're going to talk about IPAs today because I'm drinking one. There's a lot of history around them, and there's also a lot of excitement in the craft brew industry about IPAs. So we're going to be talking quite a bit about IPAs today. We got time. Let's just get some more information off the Lagunitas website. The IPA that we're going to be trying today has been in production since 1995. Comes in 12 ounce bottles, both in 6 and in 12 packs, as well as these 22 ounce bombers, as they're called. Has 6.2% alcohol by volume, a IBU rating of 51.5, and apparently, according to the website, pairs well with mild blue cheese and hamachi kama, which apparently is some sort of fish. According to the Lagunitas Brewery website, this is our unique version of an ancient style, a style as old as the ocean trade routes of the last centuries of great ships. Not as old as the equator they had to cross twice en route, nor as old as the 10,000 miles or so of dihydrogen oxide and sodium. That's just salt water for you people. But older than the cerulithium 4 linetoid that binds the lupin quadrinate onto your taste buds. That's beyond my grasp of chemistry there. Made with 43 different hops and 65 various malts, this ale will likely float your boat whatever planet you're on. All right, let's kind of dissect that for couple reasons. Alright, so this is a craft brew, and this is kind of one of the weird kooky things about American craft breweries. They just like to go crazy on names and descriptions and just be kind of weird about stuff. This is actually kind of a boring name. This is just called India Pale Ale. However, there's a lot of different other weird kooky names on their website. You can go look. They actually got into some trouble a couple years back for naming their beer called 420, and apparently a bunch of employees were caught smoking weed or something like that, and there was, investigations and whatnot. Just telling you what the internet says. All right, so we know that there's 43 different types of hops and 65 various malts in this thing. I've already told you that it's actually really quite bitter and hoppy. These things are going to kind of bring out the characters and the history of what IPAs are. So let's talk about histories of IPAs in general, not just this specific beer. IPA means India Pale Ale. Does it come from India? No. Is it a pale ale? Arguably. So ales and pale ales in general come from England. And England, again, back in the day, liked to expand their empire upon other nations and peoples. So when the English went from England all the way down to India, they wanted to bring their beer with them. However, because that trip took a really long time, the beer would go skunky and it wouldn't taste as good. So what did they do? They just threw in a bunch more hops so that it would be overly strong. Then when it kind of died down a little bit, it would taste like the normal beer that they were drinking back at home. They were compensating essentially for something, if you catch my drift. Fast forward to today, they're really popular with craft breweries because they just throw whatever they want into the beer. There's not really like an official IPA style per se. My opinion, this is just personal opinion, the IPA is kind of a catch-all of all of craft brewery beers, essentially. IPAs are just excuses for breweries to do whatever the hell they want. And as we see with this one, 43 different types of hops, 65 different types of malts. You're gonna get a lot of different flavors going on, and I would definitely say that this is a very complicated, flavorful beer. This isn't like, I can taste this one flavor, because there's just a lot of, it's like the Dr. Pepper of beers. It's sweet, it's sour, bitter, it's salty, it's, okay, maybe not salty. Then you also have like double IPAs and triple IPAs and imperial IPAs, all of which also have different characters to them. Mostly the alcohol percentage is just higher as you go up with those. So for example, you'll have like an imperial IPA or a triple IPA that'll have like upwards of 10% alcohol, which is really only typical in Belgian beers that you ever get above 10% alcohol. Which means that when you have such a high percentage alcohol in your beer, you need other flavors to kind of dull down the taste of that alcohol. Because really, when you're drinking beer, you don't want a lot of strong alcohol content coming through. You don't want it to taste like a shot. It should taste like a beer. And in order to do that, you add more hops, you add different types of barley, and you get creative and you kind of contrast these different flavors of the beer to kind of dull down the alcohol content. So I do actually have to admit I'm not the huge IPA fan, although in the past couple of years it has grown on me more. I just think that especially when you get into these like double, triple imperial IPAs that have upwards of 10% alcohol, you gotta be hanging on, you gotta be ready for it. You can't be just chugging these things. It's not as enjoyable to drink just because there's so much flavors going on, and it just hits you so hard that, I don't know, it's just not my thing. Not to say that there's not good IPAs. I really think that IPAs are a great way that American breweries have adapted other styles to make their own kind of a thing. So here's another interesting doodad I found in the United Kingdom, where IPAs actually originally come from. IPAs today are now associated with what's called low gravity beers, which have less than 4% alcohol, since they had to endure taxes and stuff like that from the war. So that's interesting that in the United States, IPAs are traditionally associated with higher alcohol contents, whereas in the United Kingdom are traditionally associated with beers that are less than 4%. Well guys, I'm still working through this thing and have no idea anymore what I should be talking about. I think I've covered everything. Hopefully you guys learned some stuff. I actually learned some stuff today. Next episode, we're going to be drinking this guy. It says that it's a Victory Ale, and there's a ship on it. Is this also an IPA? In the meantime, let's have a conversation about beer down in the comments. Have you guys had this IPA from Lagunitas? What do you guys think about IPAs in general? And what do you guys think this guy is going to taste like in comparison? Let me know down in the comments. We'll see you guys next time on Beer Day. Peace.